Hi, I'm Matthew Moran, your arrogant sage, offering technology, ideas, strategy, and diversions for artists and the creative entrepreneur. Now, we're going to cover a lot of things in this channel. We've kind of rebranded and retooled what we're doing. We're really excited about it. And we're going to be covering a number of technologies, everything from video editing to music editing to basic image manipulation, photography, and video editing for the creative entrepreneur and the artist, not for the videographer, meaning we want to make it really accessible. And one of the big things we're going to be covering are productivity tools, collaboration tools, things like that. And I'm going to start with Google Drive. That's our first video, and it's kind of an introduction to Google Drive. Google Drive is the application and file sharing app and set of features that are available to anyone with a Gmail address. So if you have a Gmail address, you already have Google Drive. You may kind of unwittingly already be using it and not realize it. If you don't have a Gmail address, create one today. I promise you, the set of features that you get with your Gmail address for free are really astounding. It's some of the most underutilized, powerful technology available today. So, and it's so mundane, it works so seamlessly that we sometimes overlook how amazing it is, because Google Drive provides a place for you to store files, but it also has a series of applications like Microsoft Office for creating documents and spreadsheets, presentations, online forms, a whole suite of things. Today, we're just going to cover the basics of Google Drive and sharing and why you need to take a look at it. So we're going to jump into a video to cover what the interface looks like, creating your first document, your first sheet, what sharing means, and a more effective way to share the information, and what it looks like to be collaborating in real time. So we're going to jump into the video, and when we're done, I'll come back and give you some kind of parting thoughts. But I think you're going to find this really exciting. And once again, I recommend, if you don't have a Gmail address, create one right away so you can follow along with this video. So here you see the interface for Gmail, actually, and I want to show you up here in the right hand corner these 9 little dots. This square of dots is the Google Apps Launcher, and I've already organized it a little bit, but you can drag these icons around as needed. So I put Google Drive up here, Google Docs, Sheets, Forms, Google Keep, YouTube. I also put Maps up here, and Gmail is right near the top anyways. But these are the apps I'm going to use a lot. So you can scroll down this and you can see a first section of apps and the second section. Actually, let's take slides and move it up there as well, since it's one of the apps we use. Let's see, let's put it in front of YouTube. It's just your personal preference on how you want to organize things. So if we want to go to Google Drive, brand new Google Drive, I set up this Gmail account just for doing these tutorials. And we can see here we have nothing in the Google Drive app. Now, if you've been using Gmail, you might see that you have items here. That can often be the case just because you may have saved something from an email that came in, not because you've been using Google Drive, or maybe you've used it intermittently. So I'm going to show you some of the things that you have available to you as part of Google Drive. We're going to do a basic spreadsheet and a basic document. Not a whole lot of content to put in there. I just want to show you how that works, how it can be shared, and then some of the things you might want to consider. Once again, we're going to cover all of this in much greater detail in the very near future. But the first thing I want you to see here is that you have some options here. My Drive, shared with me, that's when somebody shares something with you, where you can find it. Things you've worked on recently, start items in case you have something you come back to a lot, and then your trash. It shows you that you have 15 gigs of storage by default. Important to note, documents, spreadsheets created in Google Drive and using just Google Drive features take up no space. Another thing to also note is that they've added the ability to edit Microsoft Office documents, and usually it does a pretty good job. So if you have people that send you Office documents, basic documents, you should be able to edit them just fine. But we're just going to look at the features right within Google Drive. So we have this button up here, New, and that's where we can create and access some of those features. So when I click on New, you see we can create a folder, we can do a file upload, we can upload an entire folder, and you can also upload files and folders just by dragging them right into the interface. But then you see here that you have a Google Docs as an option, Google Sheet, Google Slides, which is like a presentation, like PowerPoint, Google Forms, where you can create forms that people, like surveys, for instance, that people can fill out online. You can use them and embed them on your website. And then there's additional apps, Google Drawings, where you can do basic editing, image editing. Google My Maps, we may cover that. Google Sites, which is really a way to set up a website, intranet kind of site, and then other items. So we're going to focus our attention on Google Docs and Sheets today. We'll get to slides eventually and even get to forms in a future video. So that's the basic interface. So the first thing I want to show you is just going in and creating a Google document. When you create a Google document, it creates a blank sheet. And you have a number of features in here. We're not covering a lot of that, but you can just type. I'm going to type on my keyboard. We'll go correct that H. So just like any word processor that you use, you also have the ability to get to a number of things like tables if you wanted a table. Now you have a table. And as you hit tab, it'll just add items to the table that you can now say, and whatever. Okay, so all basic stuff. And you can use this whether for business, for school, whatever, and there are templates to help you format these documents. But you go click right up here, that's going to be where you name your document. We're going to call this test first document. Okay. And what's going to happen is if we go back to our Drive interface, which is in this tab, we're going to see the untitled document there. It'll change the name. There it is, test first document. And here's what's important, either from within the document itself or from outside the document. I can go up here to this share button, and right now it says private only to me. And this is where you can get into some of the sharing features, and I'm going to show you this. Very powerful. If you're not using this, I promise you it's going to be something you want to use with anybody you work with, your teams, whatever. It's really amazing. So the first thing is I can click on share, and it's going to bring up this screen. And I'm Arrogant Sage. There's my Gmail address. But I'm going to add one of my other Gmail addresses, the one I use primarily, so I'm going to add that in here. So now I can share with that person as an editor, a commenter, or a viewer. I can also send them a notification the moment I share it, which I would recommend, except in certain cases. You can determine how you want to notify them. I'm not going to notify myself. I'm not going to generate an email because I know I'm sharing with me. So I'll turn that off. I'm going to maintain that I'm an editor, and I'm going to share it. Now a few things happen. Your share button shows you that it's shared. It shows you it's shared with one person. And here's what's really critical is in my Google Drive, which I have open in another browser for my other email address, the one I just shared with for CB Toolkit, if I go to shared with me, it's going to list that document. So I'm going to drag that up for you so you can see it. So here's my other browser instance. My CB Toolkit, I go shared with me. There's our first test document. And I'm going to open that, but I'm going to open it from within another screen, from the other screen, so you see what happens in this document. All right? So let me pull that down off of the screen again. So watch up here in this window. I'm going to now open it from this browser instance. And now it's open on my screen, my second screen down here that you can't see, but you can see up here in this top screen that there's now a cursor that's shown up with a color associated with it and my name. And you can see that cursor color right there. And this is what's important. So if I go down into my document here, And now in my lower screen, I'm going to type a little message. I'm going to type some entry into the document. So you can see up here that even though I'm typing in another user on another screen, in real time it added that information. And that's an extraordinarily valuable and powerful feature that you really should be taking advantage of. This is true with spreadsheets as well. So let's take a quick look at that. We're going to click New. If you're unfamiliar with spreadsheets, by the way, we will spend some time learning how to use them. So I'm going to call this Test First Sheet. And once again, we can see that it's not shared, it's private only to me. And let's look at what a spreadsheet does if you're unfamiliar. Income, consulting, salary, stocks, total, expenses. Housing, car, supplies, food, I don't know, whatever. Total. So this is what a spreadsheet does. If you are unfamiliar, I imagine many of you already know this. But I could put a formula in here that is sum B3 through we'll say B6. And then here we'll do B10 through, I'm not teaching how to do formulas in the sheet yet. I'm just doing a real basic overview. So now if, let's just say this is January, February, March, that's kind of what you might do with the spreadsheet. This is a really poorly formatted one, but I might do $5,000 there, and salary of $2,000, because whatever, and then stocks, dividends, what, $1,500. So that is a total of $8,500. I can then under expenses say housing, $1,500. I live in Los Angeles. It should be $4,000 or whatever it is, some crazy amount. 600, 1,000, food, 600, whatever it is. So that gives us a total. And we could actually do, here, we could do something like plus, minus, or profit loss, or whatever it is. And I can say equals B7, our total for income, minus B16. Okay, so let's copy this to the next month. It'll copy the formulas and everything. And we can always change figures and say our consulting only brought $2,000 that month, and we had nothing for our income. Okay, so by doing that, it shows that we now had a negative 200. Whatever, doesn't really matter. Here's what I want to show you. I'm going to share this with the same person, not notify them because they know it's there. And I'm going to go to my other browser instance and open that document, which will be under shared with me. There it is. So now I'm opening it. Watch up here. There I appear. Now I'm in that document. Now I can go down here and in my other instance of the browser, operating as that person that's been shared with, I can do the same thing. I can copy. I can make any changes I want to make. Now I've added in an entire row or entire column, and I can say our consulting income went back up to 3,000, and our salary was 1,000, and stock market took a dive. We didn't make anything, but our housing expenses went up to 2,500, whatever. So once again, that's what a spreadsheet does, but that shows us how sharing works, okay? really powerful feature, extremely powerful how it can be used. Now, I share directly with these sheets, which is easy enough to do, but perhaps is not the best way to do it. So I'm going to show you another way, and that's going to be all we really cover in this tutorial. But I wanted you to understand why I consider this one of the most powerful and underutilized features on the web. It's a great way to stay connected with your team, see changes in real time to a document, and you can actually chat with people while they're in the document. But either way, it's a hugely powerful feature. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to remove the sharing. Okay, we're going to go back and remove the sharing on that document, which is going to kick me out of the document down here, and that's fine. I'm going to close it. I'm going to close the other document as well because we're going to turn sharing off there. All right. And I'm going to go back here to my drive where both of those items are. And this is where things can get great for organizing your information. So rather than share these individual documents inside of my root folder, I'm going to show you how I really do things in the real world, which should matter. So I'm going to create a folder, and we're going to call this, let's just call this for this case, projects. And now it creates a projects folder. I'm going to go into that projects folder, and I'm going to go create a new folder called Google Drive Overview. And if I'm being more precise, 2021-03 Google Drive Overview. That's kind of how I name project folders and other things I work on. I put the year and the month, sometimes the day, depending on what it is, because then it's organized and sorts in proper order based on the year. All right. But now I have projects, and this projects folder is not shared with anyone. It is private to me. If I click on that folder and say share, it's only shared with me. That's great. That's how we want it. I'm going to go to this folder now, and I'm going to share this folder. Okay, and we're going to go into share, do the same thing. I'm going to add me in as an editor. I'm not going to notify me because I know it's there. And you'll see that the icon for the folder changes. It shows you a person in there that lets you know that folder has been shared. And now on my other screen, when I go to shared with me, let's bring it up there. There's the folder. Okay, now if I click on that folder, there is nothing there. We're looking at this as my CB Toolkit address, not as the one that was shared it. So now we're going to come down here, get that out of the way. Now that I've shared this folder, what I can do is go back to my root drive here, and I can decide whether I want to share any of this information. So I'm going to take the document, I'm going to put it in the projects folder. It's not shared. So it moves that, doesn't give a message, nothing. It's the same sharing permissions that apply to the folder. But now I'm going to copy the sheet into this shared folder and watch what happens. Here's what it says. Change who has access. This item will be visible to everyone who can see the folder, which I've shared now with my other account. So we're going to move it there. And it now shows up under the shared with me for my other account. So now I can go back into it once again. And let's go look at the sheet. So I'm opening it down here in my other browser, and there I am, I'm in the document. But we haven't shared the file directly, we shared the folder. And this is a much more productive, effective way to share things because I don't have to keep track of as many sharing permissions. I just have to keep track of the folders I've shared to the right people. And if I have 20 documents in there, they'll all be shared to those people with whatever permissions I've set up on the folder. Then when if I remove somebody and take them off that project, I just take them off the folder permissions and they're removed from all the documents. So it's a much more efficient way to operate. And once again, we're going to cover that in more detail, but I just wanted to cover this idea of how to get started with Google Drive. Once again, if you already have Gmail, you may already have things saved up there. You should take a look at that because when you receive an email, you often have the option to save it right to Google Drive. And if you don't have Gmail, please create an account today. Start using it. There's ways you can forward mail from old accounts. There's no reason really to have a Yahoo account and AOL, something like that. So please, I'm just telling you, you're going to find it extraordinarily effective if you learn to use this tool. And I'll get back to coming at you with my other video, or back to the regular direct video. Anyways, hope you find that interesting and informational. All right, so maybe you're using sharing already. Maybe you're using Google Drive and you're familiar with all of this, and that's fine. As a matter of fact, leave a comment whether you do or don't. I would love to find out and just get an idea of who's using these applications. We're going to cover that in more detail because there's some really cool advanced things you can do. I'm going to show how I collaborate with clients. I'm going to show how I collaborate with musicians and how I collaborate with my girlfriend on projects we work on. So there's a whole series of things you can do with it, and tools and kind of strategies that we haven't even touched upon in this video. So if you found that interesting or valuable, or if you have a specific question, please let me know. Once again, I thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, if you got something valuable out of it, please click like, consider sharing, definitely consider subscribing, let somebody else know. We're really looking to grow this channel a lot over the next year. So we'll talk about our goals in another video. But once again, thank you for tuning in. I'm Matthew Moran, your arrogant sage. Thanks.